The first thing we're going to get through today is the introduction of yourself. So we'd like you just to tell everyone who you are. So that's your name, your grade, your major, your hometown, and the location you studied away at. And if you can mention if it was an NSC direct or affiliate program, please, that'd be great. So Ashley, can you start for me?
Yeah, so my name is Ashley Anderson. I'm a senior this year. I'm a medical biology major. I'm pre-dental, so I'm planning to take a year off after this and then hopefully dental school. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota, and I studied in Perth, Australia. It was through a direct program through USC. So I did that the spring of my sophomore year.
All right, cool. Maya?
Yeah, I'm Maya. I'm the social media coordinator. I'm a senior anthropology major, and then I double minor in women's studies and communications. And I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. And then I studied at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I did that through NSE.
Awesome. Okay, Keely?
Yeah, my name is Keely Bent, and I'm a senior, and I'm studying communication sciences and disorders, hopefully to go to grad school for speech language pathology. I'm from Aberdeen, South Dakota, and I studied in Perth, Australia at the University of Western Australia through a direct program, and that was during the spring of my sophomore year.
So I am Madison Sipple. I'm in my third year at USD. I'm a secondary math education major. I grew up in Groton, South Dakota, and I studied at the University of Hawaii at Hilo through NSE.
Brooklyn, I'm a senior. I'm an international studies and English double major. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota, and I studied in Lüneburg, Germany at the Leuphana University.
Awesome. I can't tell if she's done talking or if she's just glitching. Did you say anything after university? Because you kind of glitched for a second there, hon.
University of Leuphana Universität.
Yes, awesome. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming in today, everyone. This will be really nice for potential students, obviously, to look at studying abroad, answering some questions about what your experiences are like for them to kind of get a better feel of like what it is, like a little taste of study abroad. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Haley Friedel. I am a graduate student here at USD. I'm the current GA for the Gallagher Center, working under specifically Jessica and Holga. I also studied away through USD. I went to Limerick, Ireland through an affiliate program my junior year, and it was awesome. So I'm excited to hear your guys' answers and see what similar experiences we've had and different experiences we've had. So first question, and we're just going to try to go in that same order on that we introduce ourselves in. Why did you choose your study away location?
So for me, I heard like really good things about Perth, Australia, especially like the diversity there. I heard that people from all over the world kind of studied abroad there, which was nice. And also I like didn't want a language barrier. And so that was like a huge thing for me. And I had never been to Australia, so kind of just attracted to me.
Awesome.
And then for me, I chose Hawaii because I was most comfortable. I wanted to study somewhere else, but I was kind of like anxious about going to a different country. And so that's why NSC was a good fit for me. And it was Hawaii, and I went for 2 semesters. And so just being away from South Dakota in the winter was a huge plus for sure.
Yeah, big bonus there.
Yeah, so I chose Australia because it seemed like somewhere that I would probably never go. Like, it is so far away. It's literally halfway across the world. And also a big benefit was that it was really warm. I went when it was cold here in South Dakota, but it was beautiful there like my whole semester. So that's why I chose it.
I chose Hilo specifically because it was very culturally diverse compared to South Dakota. So I wanted an environment where I could learn about something new while still being comfortable and learning about things I love.
Yeah.
I chose Germany because I had visited there previously, and I really loved the country and the language. And I chose the town specifically because it was smaller, and that's exactly what I wanted to learn the language as well. And when I was researching, it kind of just came to me, and I just knew I had to go there.
Awesome. Yeah. Language barrier is always a difficult decision when deciding on host countries, I feel like. When I was studying abroad, I have a German minor, and I kind of always have regretted, not that I didn't love Ireland, I absolutely loved it. I always regretted not going to Germany though to like make my minor more like, or better, my speaking better. But so question 2, what was your favorite place you traveled away from your host city while studying away?
Okay, so for me, the one that kind of resonated with me was going to Bali, Indonesia. So it was nice because from Perth, Bali is only like a 3-hour flight, and it was like a cheap flight. It was like 300 round trip, I think. So it was like super easy to get there, and it was just cool that there was a country like super close with like different culture and stuff like that. So yeah.
So for me, I was on Oahu. That was where my university was. And then for spring break, I went to Maui for a week. And that was really fun just because all of the islands are so different, and same sort of thing where while you're there, the inner island flights are really cheap. And so it was just cool to experience a different island for like an insanely low price. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Ashley, I also went to Bali when I was in Australia, or I went to Bali, Indonesia, and it was a great experience. Like I had never seen a country like that. Like Australia is very similar to the US, so I'm glad that I got to experience that culture as well while I was over there. And everything was so crazy inexpensive. It was great. I want to go back.
I've heard great things about Bali, and you guys are just making me want to go.
So my exchange was on the Big Island of Hawaii. So for Thanksgiving break, a group of friends and I, we went to Oahu, to Honolulu. So it's nice to get that different feel, still being the same islands, but going to a more touristic place with like 1.1 million people versus Hilo has like 40,000. So it's definitely a whole different side of Hawaii that I didn't get to see on the Big Island.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite places that I went was my roommate and I, right after my birthday, we went on a backpacking trip to Switzerland, and we hiked like Niesen. And yeah, it was just really cool. And it was like a so different experience than I've ever had. Like I've always wanted to go to Switzerland and hike there. And it was just awesome having like a German local who could kind of get us around.
You guys all have good stories. Makes me want to travel again if we can. Question 3 is, what was the biggest difference you experienced about studying at another university compared to USD?
So in Australia, I realized that like the way of teaching and the time commitment to school is a lot different than here. I only went to campus probably 2 days of the week, 2 or 3 days of the week, which is actually kind of nice because then like I had a 4-day weekend every weekend. So if we wanted to travel or go camping or something, we could. But it was just like hard to get used to at first, like not having to go to class every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'd just say the biggest thing is campus size. University of Hawaii at Manoa is just huge, and so a lot of my classes were a lot bigger, and the campus was a lot bigger than USD's, so definitely just population.
Yeah, I was really interested to learn that Australia, they don't do any like busy work. All of our grades were based off of just our final. And like Ashley said, like I only had to go to class like once a week. So that was super nice for the study abroad experience, because then you have so much time to just explore and travel.
Mm-hmm.
And then my experience is opposite of Maya's. Hilo actually has about 4,000 students for the whole campus, so classes are very small, very personal, and a lot of the professors are local Hawaiians, so they more focus on you learning about Hawaii and learning why this is important versus learning the content of their classes. They want you to have a good experience while you're there.
Awesome.
The university that I was at, our program was more Americanized, so we didn't really get to interact with any of the university students or take classes with them. But I had 4 German roommates, so I kind of knew like what the university was like. So it was basically like Australia, where you just take one exam at the end, and then that's your grade, and you don't really have to go to class. Like that's not required. You can just study on your own, and then you take the exam, and then honestly.
Yeah, Ireland was exactly the same way as Australia and Germany. It was such a weird, it must be like a Europeanizer, colonizer thing. It was really strange for me at first because like the Irish students showed up for like the first 2 weeks, and then all the Americans and like international students kept going to class, but the Irish students weren't there. And it's essentially because they didn't keep track of attendance, because they would just come the last week and then take the test. So it was just kind of interesting, just very different. I still to this day don't know if I liked that system better or not. Like not having, like the consistent like essays and quizzes and tests that we get here in America versus, the one final at the end. But it was nice to have at least an experience of it. Okay, so question number 4 is, what was your housing situation like?
So in Perth, I lived in like a college community. It was right across from the university. And so it's kind of confusing how they do it there. The colleges, what they call them, are separate from the universities. And they have like on College Row, there's like 5 different colleges. And so like in my individual college, they had their own like cafeteria, their own gym. Basically everything was just there inside this like fenced area. And they were single dorms, which is nice. And it was nice because they were kind of like, there's like a sense of community there. So they did a lot of things together and did like trips to like islands nearby together. It was fun.
So you didn't have any roommates, or you just didn't have any like?
No. Yeah, they were all single dorms. Like all of them. I think all of the colleges had single dorms. Double dorms weren't really much of a thing there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then I lived in a dorm with 3 roommates, and I would compare it super closely to Coyote. And a lot of the other NSE students also lived in the dorm that I lived in, and it was the only one with air conditioning. So I think that they just set it up so most of the study abroad kids got rooms with AC, and then a lot of local kids were in dorms without AC.
I don't know how to feel about that. It's nice for you though.
Yeah, so I also lived in a single dorm in one of those colleges. I lived in a different college than Ashley did though. So it was cool like seeing how we both had like different experiences, but it was really nice. Like those, I would definitely recommend living in one of the colleges if you were to go to Australia, because they're so close to campus, and then you get all your meals and all your things are just right there in one location, versus living off campus might be a little tricky. But yeah, so I had a single room, and then I had 1 bathroom that me and 4 other study abroad students shared on our floor. So it was pretty nice. I definitely liked the single dorm and wasn't ready to go back.
I actually lived in 2 different complexes while I was on campus. So the first one I lived to was similar to North Complex. It was a double dorm and then community bathrooms, and it was like the oldest on campus. So no AC in the whole building, but it's only 65 to 90 is the range, so it's not too bad, just humidity gets bad. The second one I lived in was the most expensive and newest on campus, and it was similar to Coyote, 2 roommates, each get your own room, you share a bath, and then there's still no AC, but this one had like a window fan. That's about the best that they could do. But yeah, on-campus housing is very similar to the housing here. Right on campus, nice walk to classes.
So I didn't live on campus at all. I was in an apartment off of campus. So it was probably about like a 20-minute bike ride or so, and then a 40 to 50-minute walk if you want to do that. But I had a great housing situation. I had 4 German roommates, and so that was really cool because we kind of just like spoke German in the home all the time, and so I was able to like do the language all the time, and then they were able to like integrate me into the community, and then we could like bike to campus together and like all this like really cool stuff. And they were all in their 2 were in their masters, 1 was in their undergrad, and then the other one he was older and he was like working in the city. But it was really cool, and we got to know each other pretty well because I was there from the end of August until March when we had to leave early because of the coronavirus.
All right. Thanks, guys. It's funny how different housing situations all across, I mean, even just like within the United States, I know that happens, but it's cool to hear. When I was in Limerick, in Ireland, there was like different, essentially dorms, but they all were like townhomes, like just a bunch of like groupings of townhomes. And so like we all lived in like these, they looked like little cottages essentially, and they were pretty cute. And I had 8 roommates. I had my own bedroom, but it was kind of like you, Keely, where you had your own room, but you shared a bathroom. So I shared a bathroom with 4 roommates, and we had a central space, kind of like Coyote Village, where we cooked and had a TV and stuff. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. We were actually the closest to campus housing, and we were like still like 0.6 miles away, which like, you know, for Europeans is fine, but like for Americans coming, we're like, we don't walk anywhere. So it was kind of funny. I got my steps in for sure. All right. So next question is, what was your favorite or a fun course you took?
So I took a course called Active Leadership while I was there, and they had different sections. So one of them was stand-up paddleboarding, another was sailing, and then kayaking, and I did the kayaking section. So you kind of just like went to class once a week, and we would kayak, and there's like a little bay right next to campus. It was only like a 5-minute walk away from my dorm, and it was fun. You basically just kayaked for like 2 hours every week.
Mine wasn't necessarily like a school course, but I took a scuba course through the school, and it was like a month-long course. I got a scuba certification, and so we got to go out into the ocean and go diving, and it was a lot of fun.
Sounds cool. Did you see any cool animals?
We actually saw like jellyfish, some squid, octopus. It was insane down there.
Yeah.
So I took the same active leadership course that Ashley did, but I did the stand-up paddle boarding. And so I really loved that class. Like it was pretty much, we just did that activity for 2 hours, and it was taught by like grad students at the college. And so they were just loving it. Like we were just stand-up paddleboarding for class while we were learning about leadership.
I took a class called Hawaiian Ethnozoology. So we would learn about the plant life, the animal life, all in Hawaii. One class, a professor, like his friend had caught an octopus that morning. He brought it into class, held it up, showed us the anatomy of an octopus with not live, but a real octopus. And then we would have class, like we'd go down to the beach, he'd catch fish, we'd learn about like why the beach is important, and then we'd swim the rest of the class and learn how to surf.
I think one of my favorite courses was probably German. We didn't have any like outdoor courses or anything, but it was kind of cool because you were taught by a local like professor, kind of incorporate what you learned like into your daily life, which is really cool.
All right. I know we're getting close to time, so if you guys have other appointments you need to get to, feel free to exit the meeting. Otherwise, we're just going to keep asking questions. If you can stay, we'd really appreciate it because we're almost done. While I was in Limerick, we had the opportunity to take an Irish music or dance class, and so you had to choose between the baron, which is an Irish drum used in their traditional music, and then obviously like the Irish flute, or you could learn how to dance. And so I took the dance course, and we did what they call ceilidhs, which is essentially like when you watch like old movies, you know, like when they do like the dancing together with like couples at like balls. It's like that, but the Irish version. So it's like a little bit faster, a lot more low key, you know, like it was a lot of fun. So it's kind of set up like your guys' Australia course where you got to get an overview and then you had to choose. So question 6, I'm excited to hear answers for this one. Do you have any embarrassing moments or adjusting stories for us?
So mine isn't like so much embarrassing. It's just like something that I had a really hard time getting used to. The cockroaches in Australia are like terrible. And so whenever you would go out at night, they would tell you to wear like closed-toed shoes because they like run across the sidewalks and stuff. And and they like run across your foot. It's disgusting. But
So
one bad thing was my dorm room. Yeah, my dorm room at one point was like infested with baby cockroaches. And like everyone thought it was like kind of normal, like they just coexist with cockroaches there. But so I had the maintenance guy come and like set up traps in my room because I couldn't handle it. It was disgusting, but they got taken care of, so it wasn't too bad.
Oh my gosh, that is, oh, I cannot imagine that. That sounds terrifying, but I'm glad you survived and the maintenance man saved you.
Mine is, I don't condone this at all, but some of my friends and I used to go pool hopping at the resorts along the ocean, and one time we got caught by some of the hotel staff and we got in trouble. But I mean, it wasn't anything bad. It was more just like a fun experience. It's also just like we probably could have done things to not get caught or just not do it at all. But
Yeah, the Gallagher Center does not condone that activity, but thank you for sharing.
I did not have any cockroach experiences, thank goodness. I did not even know that was a thing. So, but two things that I had to adjust to was one, was the time difference because Perth is 13 hours ahead. So that is literally like your whole day just completely like flip-flopped. And so the hardest part about starting that was that Australia has these birds called kookaburras that sound like sheep bleating, and they like have the loudest, I don't even know. It's just their sounds they make are so loud, and they were so early in the morning that even if I tried to get like onto a schedule, I would just wake up every morning when the first one started blaring. So yeah, not cockroaches, but birds.
I have to ask you, Australia ladies, did you ever have like any run-ins with like, because don't they have like crazy huge insects there? I mean, obviously besides cockroaches, but like spiders and like the snakes are terrifying. I've heard like it's a lot of.
I would say.
You go, Ashley.
Oh, sorry. I would say that I didn't, other than cockroaches. I feel like on the coast and the cities especially, like the bigger bugs kind of stay away from there. We did go camping like in the outback though, and there were like bigger bugs and snakes there, but not a lot.
Yeah, when we also went camping in the outback, and I saw these cool like rock formations, and so I had my friend go over, and I was like, "God, like stand there, I'll take a picture of you by it." And then I looked down, and there was this huge snake, and these other tourists were like, "That is the most deadly snake in Australia," and it was like 4 inches from my friend's leg, and yeah, we lived to tell about it though, so all good.
Survived.
Yep.
Glad to hear it.
One of the things in Hawaii is there are a lot of stray like chickens and cats everywhere. So outside of my dorm, I had a family of chickens live there. So every morning they would just decide to cluck as soon as the sun came up. And the time difference again is like 4 or 5 hours. They don't celebrate daylight savings there. So that was something else to remember. Like when I'm calling home, hey, you know, it's not this time, it's that time. And then for first birthdays in Hawaii, they make a big celebration out of it. So like us, it's just your first birthday. They have like the entire community together because so many of those babies didn't make it past 1. So it was a culture shock for me as well as the locals. Like they didn't know that people on the mainland don't go so extravagant for your first birthday.
Oh, that's funny.
I think for me, the first adjustment was obviously the language barrier, and then like figuring out transportation because they use buses, and a lot of those guys, they just bike everywhere. And so like learning the bike paths, because I've never really done any of that, was a challenge.
I think I had like the worst like 48 hours known to man trying to get to Ireland when I went. First, our plane had such bad turbulence the entire 7 hours that they couldn't serve us any of our meals. So like that was like the kicker to begin with. And then we finally got there, and my luggage, all of it was left in Chicago. So I only had quite literally the clothes on my back. And so my friend and I, who was also from USC, Sydney Bowensteiner, she was studying away in Limerick as well. We went downtown to get a phone, and I left my American SIM card downtown. So I'd like potentially had lost like all of my photos and my contacts. And then we went grocery shopping that night, and I broke 2 jars of peanut butter in the grocery store. They were glass in Ireland for some reason. And then to top it all off, as we were walking back home, we were like, there's like this little hill that like people walk down to get to the bus stop, and it was raining and it was all mud, and I slipped and threw all my groceries and ruined literally the only clothes I had with me. It was the craziest 48 hours. Like, I'm surprised I didn't board a plane home, but it was obviously worth it. I think it was a good introduction just to like get me on my feet, make me independent right away, and just kind of get over the curveballs that were going to come. So thanks for sharing your stories, guys. So question 7, how did studying away change you?
So I would say that it honestly like changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. Like living with different people from all over the world and like becoming friends with like such a diverse group of people kind of showed me like different ways of life and stuff. And now I'm just like a little bit more open-minded, and I'm more motivated to travel like more often now and spend my money on that.
For me, I'd say that it made me more independent and more like open to being social. I went my sophomore year, and I spur of the moment decided to do NSE because my freshman year was just like really sad because I wasn't used to being away from home. So I thought, let's travel, 12 hours away and see how that goes. But it really pushed my limits, and I'm really glad I did it because it made me more independent and social.
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely made me more independent and really like opened my eyes to like all these new cultures from everyone around the world, like getting to meet so many new people. Like I was so comfortable in my Midwest surroundings. Like I just didn't really think about all that. And so I'm glad that that really just like pushed me into that.
Yeah, similar to Keely, I think that it definitely helped me learn about different cultures and deal with some cultural indifferences, learn about new cultures, like make myself more vulnerable to going outside of what I know, what I'm used to, out of my routine. Born and raised in South Dakota, you don't see very much, you don't learn very much. So just I kind of did what Maya did. I was like, hey, let's just do something different next year. So I said, hey, I'm going to Hawaii. It was just really nice to learn about the culture.
Yeah, I would have to definitely agree. Just getting out of South Dakota was such a shock almost. And I was there for an entire year, so I learned a lot during that time. And I learned a lot about like who I am and like also becoming an independent person. It was my junior year, and that's kind of like where you kind of realize a lot of independence that you already have. But it was really cool. And yeah.
Awesome. All right, so the final question we have today is, besides recommending students to participate in study away programs, what is one piece of advice you would give to a student considering study away?
So I would just say to like just do it. I think the hardest part is committing and like going out of your comfort zone. But it's like 100% worth it. So I would just say like don't think about it too much and just commit to it.
That's literally pretty much what I was going to say. Just take the leap and push yourself because, especially with everything going on right now, I think once COVID is hopefully all over, now's the time to do it, or then will be the time to do it while you're in college and while you have the opportunities to travel like with other students and learn about other cultures.
Yeah, I would totally agree with all that. And I would say if a student is worried about like finances, there are so many scholarships that are offered through the Gallagher Center, through like the different colleges. And USC Direct programs are a great way. You get to use your USC scholarships and pay USC tuition. You just have to pay for the housing and like other personal expenses over there. And because that was something I was really worried about. I was like, oh, it seems kind of expensive, but doing the direct program really made it really easy to do. So.
Yeah, I'd say do your research. Make sure the program fits your lifestyle. I personally didn't really want to leave the U.S., but I wanted to leave the U.S. at the same time. So NSC was like a good program to get me out of the like continent. If I can't drive there, this is a good way to do that. And financially, it was actually cheaper for me to go on exchange than to be an in-state student here at USD. So looking at a financial situation, it's one of the best ways to travel while being cheap to travel.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I would also say weigh all your options when studying abroad, like weigh all the countries, do the pros and cons, and go to like somewhere that speaks to you and there. And then try every experience you can when you're there, and don't be afraid to like meet people or talk to people because they're in the same shoes you are, and they also want to meet like other cultures too.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for all of your answers. It was fun to hear everyone's stories and unique experiences. I mean, that's what Study Abroad is all about. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in today. I am going to stop the recording.